Oh, the recording started just now. All right. I just only did a short summary. We looked at this line. We looked at those waymarks. Now we're here. Originally, I said this is July 2024, and this is National Sunday Law, Death of the King of the South. I have changed my position on the National Sunday Law because I said National Sunday Law is 2025. I said I am on the side of July 18 in regard to the Western Front. The full implications of understanding the Eastern Front, this story, I'm still dealing with. I'm still trying to understand that. One of the thoughts that I have introduced in my first presentation is this model here. This is the model that Elder Terry introduced. First, an internal rise and fall, the King of the North and the King of the South. Then the external rise and fall of the King of the North and the King of the South. I agree with that model in regard to the endpoints of those lines, of those arrows. I only suggest that they all start here at the beginning in 2021. 2021 is the point, also externally, and I think that's what Penium really shows. Penium is really the story where the King of the North takes control externally of the world situation, so to speak. It restores its credibility, and it also marks the beginning of the fall of the King of the South externally. So I think this model is better illustrating what is taking place in the world today, that the external fall also started here. So then I introduced the thought that Sunday law and Sunday law are both, national Sunday law and worldwide Sunday law are just both Sunday law. It just depends on the story you're telling. So if you tell a story of an internal story of the USA, well, then this is your Sunday law. If you tell the story of the external USA, this is Sunday law. It's all Sunday law. So I'm suggesting that the original model that I created in January of this year is still correct, except that this Sunday law is not national Sunday law, but worldwide Sunday law. And that is actually a dispensation you can consider, because Sunday law is Sunday law. That is my proposal. And in that case, July 2024, last year, was the exeter for the worldwide Sunday law, for the Sunday law, for this story. I also introduced the thought of the increase of knowledge after so going back to this model where 2024 is national Sunday law, then we need an increase of knowledge after that. And I'm suggesting that it's February to May of this year. That's in a nutshell, I think, what I presented in the first hour. And I'm sure there's thoughts, comments, or questions. So I see one hand, Brian. Several hands. Brian, you can unmute yourself. And if not, then I'll go to Titus.
Okay.
Oh,
yes. I just have a question on the last point that you made, which is the 2021 and the worldwide. You've drawn like a dispensation between 2021 and the worldwide Sunday law, right? Okay.
yes.
So my question was, I think the premise for creating Boston, Concord, and Exeter is the premise of typology, where we have the 4 waymarks in any given line. If it's the line of 144,000, if it's the line of priests, Levites, or Nethinim. And we have the 4 dispensation, the plowing, the early rain, the latter rain, and the harvest. And in each dispensation, we understand that according to the rules that we have, Great Controversy 343, in every age, we have striking similarity in God's dealing with humanity. And age can mean different things, but in our case, it can mean the different dispensations, like the plowing, the early rain, the latter rain, and the harvest dispensation. So we have those dispensations, and they can be counted as ages. And now we have Boston, Concord, and Exeter. We can cut all of them, plowing, early rain, and overlay them, and we have Boston, Concord, Exeter, because we realized that pattern in every dispensation. Now, if we draw 2021 to close of probation, I don't know, according to me, like, what's the basis for that? Because now that's not a dispensation per se. It's not a dispensation, because, and if it's not a dispensation, then we don't have maybe the basis for having a Boston, a Concord, and an Exeter. And then 2021 is on like, as a if you can count 2021 to Sunday law, and then we have Boston, Concord, and Exeter, then that would mean 2021 is a major waymark, and close of probation is a major waymark, and the Sunday law will be a minor waymark. And in that case, that would break, I think, the bigger line of Adventism, the structure that Ellen White gives us, which has the five dispensation. Yeah, so that's, I think that's my inquiry. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yes. A thought that I have, or I see your point, and you may agree. Or you may be right. One of the thoughts that I have is, when Elder Tess has her lines of First World War, Second World War, Third Diadochi War, Fourth Diadochi War, you have all those waymarks. I think it's 7. They all end with Sunday law. They all end with Sunday law. And we've always understood that to be, and I think she even taught it also that way, to be national Sunday law. That was the end point of those lines. And she said that was national Sunday law. And I don't have a solution, but that's a question that I have, and I don't expect you to, or anybody, to answer it. But I think we should understand this better, the waymark Sunday law, because we've understood the end of the King of the South at the national Sunday law. That is what Elder Tess taught us here. And we are now moving that to worldwide Sunday law. And we're saying it's actually a little bit of both. It is and the national Sunday law and the worldwide Sunday law. So what is this waymark teaching us, and what is this story teaching us? And I'm suggesting that depending on the story, Sunday law is either this one or that one. Again, I'm repeating myself then, but thank you for your input. I'll give it a thought. So, Leonard.
Thank you. Now, my my question is about the King of the North. We know that for King of the North to reign supremely, he has to conquer the 3 entities. Now, in our history, how are the 3 entities conquered? Is it sequential or parallel? Now, I have another observation. Number 2, this is an observation. This thing that has distracted us for long, which is the war between King of the South and Ukraine. Now, that hot war has distracted our seeing the events or understanding the events that we ought to look at, because we are living in an information era. For me, the way I understand is that come 2024, which is a Sunday law period, Putin, the King of the South, is watching keenly what is happening in the USA. So when he watches the RNC of July 18 and sees that Trump is the anointed one, he celebrates. The King of the South celebrates. Now, come December 17th, when the institution confirms that it is really Trump, then the king of the South opens the champagne and celebrates the more. By so doing, his crown falls down. So he's no longer the king of the South. And now the work of Putin being the king of the South ends there. So from there henceforth, we see Russia. We don't see the king. And the way we understand a king, when he goes to battle, he takes the spoils. And we know in this case, who takes the spoils of Ukraine? It is the king of the north. It is Trump who takes the riches of Ukraine. He goes to Ukraine and takes the treasures. So in another hand, we see that Putin loses in that battle because he doesn't take the treasures of Ukraine. So that is my observation. So from Sunday law henceforth, there is no king of the South. That is my observation. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I can see that. What I think is, what I've been thinking of being the decisive moment for the king of the South to lose its influence or lose its power basically in 2024 is more the agreement between Trump and Putin to go in negotiations. That is basically Putin bowing down for Trump and say like, okay, yes, I need your help, and I agree. We're going to talk with each other next year. That bowing down was for me the moment. It's for me the point where I think is the defeat in 2024 externally. And yes, I agree with you that this king of the South and Russia are two different things, and that we can say this is the king of the South here, and now it's only Russia. Yes, I can see that. Thank you for that. Next one, Ryan.
Okay, so happy Sabbath, everyone. So for me, I have a question and comment and two observations. So the first question, I think I will not repeat it well, but I'll just re-echo because the first person Titus was able to do. I was also struggling to see how you make July a major waymark, a minor waymark, and 2021 a minor waymark, a major waymark. So maybe I was inquiring of maybe testimonies or where we have done that before. Because in my perspective, I thought July 2024, which you agree with, is a major waymark, and which is the national Sunday law. And the waymark clause of probation, which we can agree is the worldwide Sunday law, is also a major waymark. So rather than narrowing a minor and making it major and a major minor, I was thinking the pattern you are giving, because I see 21, 22, 24 in the Sunday law, I think it's the pattern of Boston, Concord, Exeter. I think this is a pattern that Boston is always a major waymark and Exeter is a minor waymark. So, and I think you have actually said that it's still your problem, but maybe you can try and look for maybe other testimonies that would justify that claim. That was the question. So when you come to the comment that I wanted to make was when I look at your boardwork and also agree with this perspective of internal and external. So for me, I've actually struggled a little bit with what Elder Terry has demonstrated, that from her presentations, she's able to demonstrate that the deadly wound of the King of the South, which is the Sunday law waymark, is an internal event. And the deadly wound of, the death of the King of the South externally is at the worldwide waymark. But the reason why I was struggling is because I want to go back to the world wars and look at the Eastern Front and the Western Front. And when I go to World War II, which was the first history that we were able to understand, we have an Eastern Front and a Western Front. So the Western Front, this is dealing with the internal of USA. It's Trump in 2016 at the Battle of Ipsas, which is the Wehrmacht where World War II begins, fighting against the three institutions. And you can be able to run that thread showing that it is dealing, the Western Front of World War II is dealing with the internal of USA. But when you come to the Eastern Front of World War II, this is Operation Barbarossa, Germany versus Stalin. This is an external. And going to World War I, the Western Front is USA against the West. So we need also to be able to run a thread about USA versus maybe European Union versus NATO versus UN, the war that began in 2003, when the West is sending an ultimatum to USA in 2003, do not invade Iraq. And we spoke of an Eastern Front in World War I again, which is actually another war between the King of the North and the South, which is an external event. So with those concepts in mind, and coming to our history, we looked at the first war, 2016, which I'm going to put it aside, and go to 2018, which is the Battle of Heraclea. This is a confrontation between the King of the North and the King of the South, an external conflict, not inside the King of the South and not inside the King of the North. You come to Raffia and we continue running our thread, and it is a war between the King of the North and the King of the South. And you come to the third war we looked at, Panium or Beneventum, the King of the North and the King of the South. So I was in the same mind that when you come to the Battle of Argos, which is in the Wehrmacht Sandelo, as much as Elder Terry is trying to demonstrate it being an internal fall, we ought also to be consistent and see it also has an external fall of the King of the South, which would mark as the death. And I think you have tried to demonstrate that, which I agree with. So based on that, the concept that I see for me running through is when you come to Heraclea, Beneventum, Asculum, and Argos, there is one theme that we were always able to run, which spoke of information wars, which is a concept that you have actually tried to demonstrate. We spoke of proxies, and we also spoke about spheres of influence. So when you look at Heraclea, we can see Trump withdrawing troops from Syria. We can see Trump withdrawing troops from Afghanistan. We can see Trump releasing oligarchs who financially support Putin, and we mark the strength or the victory for the King of the South. You come to Raffia, and it is very clear, 2019, we mark spheres of influence. Syria, China, Libya, we mark Venezuela, and all that is dealing with spheres of influence and proxy wars. So when you come to Panium and the history of Pyrrhus in Italy marks Turi as Ukraine, it is also a sphere of influence. So, and I'm suggesting when you come to Argos, it's Pyrrhus trying to invade Argos. We also need to see an aspect of spheres of influence. And my perspective is we need to begin to see the connection between the Ukraine war and the fall of Assad's regime in Syria. Because what happens around 2024, by December, the toppling of Assad's regime, which we can actually see is what sent a message to the West from the battle of, right from 2014, I would say, when Putin invades Syria and use his power to show that he can actually become a kingmaker, that he can actually resist America from overthrowing a regime that he controls. We need to see the toppling of Assad's regime in 2024 as a significant event for me that shows how Syria has been significant for Putin, how Syria has actually been the country that Putin has able to project his power in the entire of Middle East. And the interesting part, these are proxies of the King of the North and the South at war. We see Israel, a proxy under the influence of America, and Iran, a proxy under the influence of Russia, in a confrontation which results to the weakening of the Hezbollah. And you can see the story of the Wagner mercenaries. And these are the ones that showed Putin's power in Syria. But 2024, that actually happens. So I'm also trying to see that we, in my perspective, we can also run a thread of the external downfall of the King of the South based on spheres of influence.
Thank you for your input. There was a question all the way in the beginning. Can you repeat that in half a sentence?
Pardon? There was a question. So my question was based on what was asked first. I was also struggling to see how you make 21 a major waymark, a Boston, and July 18 a minor waymark.
Thank you. Yes. I don't think we've ever done something like that before. Not sure if that is necessary, but at the same time, I'm upholding that premise because it depends on the story you're telling. So I'm going to repeat myself, but in this story of the external story, is the internal waymark not is irrelevant basically. It's not a big waymark necessarily. So the internal Sunday law is not a big waymark on the external story. That is my premise, and I'm not saying that that is done before necessarily, but this national Sunday law, worldwide Sunday law, is also, I mean, it's in the name of the waymarks. It is Sunday law. It's just Sunday law for a different part of the world or of a different story. So we haven't seen that before either. So it's not that we have a time of the end 1 and A or B, 1798 and 1989, but within the same time frame, within the same history. This is also a first. So I'm not sure if it necessarily has to have happened before but again, this is really a thought that I introduced. This is the way I think at the moment, but I can be corrected on that definitely. So I understand your questions, all of you, because I would have had the same question. And I'm not sure if I can answer them. I can repeat myself by saying that it's different stories. And for one story, this waymark isn't necessarily a big waymark. The internal waymark, the internal Sunday law is not a big waymark on the external story. That's my defense. And I'm not sure if that is a good one. And yes, in this case, I'm saying this big waymark in the internal story becomes a small waymark in this story. Yeah. Stephen.
Hello.
Hi.
I hope you're okay. It's Roger speaking through Stephen's device.
Hi.
Okay, so my first question is on the line that you drew out, which had February to October 2021, February to September 2022, and if I'm not mistaken, July to November 2024.
Yep.
Then you had, I think, February, and then you don't have the other one, but it was 2025 somewhere.
Yes.
You explained that, but later you said you agree with what Elder Terry teaches about the Sunday law. So then if we take your line and the fact that you agree with Elder Terry, then I think your July to November has to move and become a different thing other than Exeter.
So
like
you're saying
I was struggling to get how you can say, okay, you taught your line and then said you agree with Elder Terry on where she places the Sunday law. And in Elder Terry's line, if I understand well, is July to November. That is July 18. So it will be July to November. That history is the Sunday law. So
yes.
your line, and then you agree with Elder Terry. How do we reconcile the two thoughts? Because then I think if you have your line and you say you agree with Elder Terry, then July to November has to become a Sunday law. Then you have to find a different waymark for Exeter.
Yes, that's what I've done here now. I'm not 100% settled on the Exeter at the moment, so this is also part of a question mark here for me. But I have moved July to November now to National Sunday Law here. So I need to have another Exeter for this story, for this line. I agree, and I have suggested that to be March 8th. Where Trump and Orban make their plans to to invite Putin to start the negotiation, the process of negotiations. That is this meeting that takes place at March 8th. And then Orban is involved in this story as well, where he takes the first step to go to Putin and Trump finishes it in November. And that plan was made, so to speak, here in March 8th, when they visited each other. That is my suggestion of being Exeter. And I'm suggesting that lines also up with if this is the Western Front for so Eleuteris line. So this is then, well, if this is Western Front, so this is July 18. I'm suggesting this is National Sunday Law. So I'm suggesting that Exeter, she says that is May 30. This is where the Republicans support Trump in his trial, his hedge money court case. The Republicans standing there supporting him, even through this court case where he is accused in, I think, 34 case trials. It starts here, this Exeter, I would suggest, and that is May 6th. So, no, sorry, not May 6th, March 6th. Where's my, I'm sorry. So, March 6th is the day where, oh, I always forget her name. What's the woman that steps down as candidate? Okay. Oh, I wasn't prepared.
Nikki Haley?
Nikki Haley, yes, thank you, Haley. That's the one. So Nikki Haley steps down as a candidate for the Republican Party. So you have the primaries in this history before in 2022 from January, February, March. You have the primaries in America. Americans vote for the Republican candidate. There's, I think, 5 or 6 candidates, and it boils down to having 2 left, which is Nikki Haley and Donald Trump. And it's on March 6th where Nikki Haley steps down and says, I'm not going to make this. I'm not going to win this. I step down and I'll support Donald Trump. So Donald Trump here at March 6th is the only candidate left. So in March 6th, the Republicans know who their candidate is going to be. This is the point where everybody can see it. So this is, I would say, then the mini version of the big one. So at March 6th, Trump is the only candidate. You can see it. And at May 30, you can see that the Republicans support him no matter what. Even into the courtroom, they support him. So that is the mini version, Exeter, of the big one. And in July 18, you can see the Republicans. Someone is. You can see the mini version of Exeter. You can see Trump being chosen as the only one. In a small way, you can see that here, July 18 as being really happening. He's crowned there as the head of the Republican Party and supported by the Republicans. You could already see that in May 30. So I make that one. So for the internal, so I mark March 8th. That's 2 days after Trump is the only candidate of the Republican Party. March 8th, Viktor Orban visits him. They make plans to this negotiation process, the first steps, and they do that in July of the same year. I don't have a bookend yet for this line, but these are my thoughts about this. I hope that helps.
Okay, I thank you for that. So is this a refinement of your line earlier done, or you are saying this is a line for the internal, there is a line for the external. Is this a refinement of what you had done earlier?
Yes, this is a refinement. I changed my position on the national Sunday law because first I thought 2025. Now I say no, it's July 2024. So I needed to shift these two
Okay.
waymarks, and this is what I have in place for now for that story. Yes.
Okay, I get that. My second question and the last one is on this line here, where you have the Sunday law, Sunday law. I think one is national, one is universal, or yeah, the universal Sunday law.
Yes.
Now my question is, why are you moving this? Like, why are you moving? Okay, let me ask my question this way. So the structures that we have are primarily guided by what Elder Tess did. She gave us the symbols that we are supposed to find the meanings to. So if we take our symbols, whether it be World War I, World War II, Third Diadochi War, Fourth Diadochi War, the story of Pyrrhus, that the last waymark she has is the Sunday law, and we know that that Sunday law, what she means there is the national Sunday law, not the universal Sunday law. Why am I saying that? The first thing you did is you did the history of 1989 to 1991, which is the fall of the King of the South. Now, that history of 91 to 1991, 89 to 1991 will line up with the history of 2021 to the Sunday law. So if that be the case, then the Sunday law she speaks about in all those lines is the national Sunday law. So my understanding then will be, if a latter is going to shift that to the universal Sunday law, then I'm suggesting maybe that is not being done using the line she gave us, but rather maybe different stories. So like, I don't get why you are squashing together two dispensations and then saying that these waymarks are speaking about, sorry, the two smaller waymarks there still have relevancy for the universal Sunday law. I don't get that point still.
Can you repeat your last sentence? What do you don't get? Those two waymarks?
The smaller waymarks, the two waymarks after 2021, these ones that you have. Yeah, this one and
Yes.
that one. You say they have relevancy for the national Sunday law and the universal Sunday law. But in your case, you were explaining about the universal Sunday law. I'm saying I don't get that point because from our lines, the Sunday law she's talking about is not the universal, but rather the national.
Yeah, so okay, I get your point. I think. So I think what I'm saying is that those waymarks, 2022 and 2024, they're in this story of the fall of the King of the South, they're referring to the universal Sunday law. It's part of it's part of that story. I can see your point here, that here I have the same waymark, and it's part of this story to the national Sunday law. I'm not sure if that's the one the combination of the two you're referring to, because the combination of these two waymarks, Boston, Concord, Exeter, or 2021, 2022, 2024, is setting up for worldwide Sunday law, and not national Sunday law. National Sunday law is basically not part of that story, if you understand what I mean. But anyway, I see all your concerns. I get it. I might not have all the answers because I'm also studying it myself, and I have been sharing this for 2 weeks now. So it's for me also new thoughts that I try basically, and also hear the feedback and develop it. Thank you for your question. I think about that. So I think then we have Brian.
Okay, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think I have a general comment, which at the end I'll make it a question, and it's more of related to some concern Leonard had. I don't know if you got that. They were trying to ask, do we treat the two stories? You know, the three obstacles. We know that for the king of the north to reign supremely, they have to conquer three obstacles. And from my understanding, the first obstacle is the king of the south in 1989. The second obstacle is at the Sunday Law, the glorious land. And then at the close of probation, we have the world. So when you are in 1989, it is my belief that the king of the south was done and dusted uh, in 1991. But what is really happening is that we have, because you understand, from 1989 to 2024, the Sunday Law, or let me not use 2024, let me say the Sunday Law, from 1989 to the Sunday Law, that's a big time. And from Providence, from other stories, we realize that actually there is a repeat of the king of the south resurrects, and there's a repeat of that story that will now show us how again the king of south is going to be defeated, or its complete uh complete death. Now I tend to think, and here this is where my question comes from, that as much as we have the two stories which we can really see as parallel, the Western Front and the Eastern Front, it is my belief that for us to really establish the Sunday Law waymark, we have to embark to the Western Front story for us to establish that waymark. And then I would suggest the Eastern Front, which is the altercation between the King of the North and the King of the South, becomes second, third, or becomes a subsequent witness. Because of why am I saying that? When you read verse 41, it is explicitly about the king of the north entering the glorious land. And therefore, from the broadest level, we finished the case of the king of the south, or we finished with the king of the south as an obstacle in 1989. So I understand, yes, there's a repeat of that story. The Heraclea, the Ascalon, the Beneventum, it's a repeat of that story. But it's my suggestion for us to explicitly establish the Sunday Law waymark. Actually, the Sunday Law waymark, the special prophecies point us to the Sunday Law waymark, and one of those prophecies that point us to that waymark is the image of the beast. So Ellen G. White helps us to connect that image of the beast happens at the Sunday Law waymark. So we have to use that story, my suggestion, and really my question, if you would agree to that, we have to use the Western Front to establish that waymark. Then other stories, i.e. the story of the Eastern Front, becomes other witnesses that are going to confirm that. And I think even keenly, while I was following your studies and I've been doing before, I think that aspect can be seen in your studies, because I see recently, increasingly, I'm noticing you are starting to align your waymarks with Elder Terry's waymarks, but I see your waymarks are ranges. You don't have specific waymarks, and for me, that is another witness that we cannot use the story of the King of the South and the King of the North to explicitly establish waymarks, especially from 2021 going forward. So I don't know what's your take on that.
I don't think I have an attack on that. I can see that as well. I think I have been developing that as well. If you would have asked me this question in the beginning, I perhaps would, in the beginning, like a few months ago, earlier this year, I would perhaps not agreed with you. But I think now, yes, I think that is the reality, that that first the Western Front is set up, and that the other stories around it maybe side stories, you can maybe call it, need to fit into that model. After that, instead of first putting the model of the King of the South in place and then fit in the image of the beast somehow. Because that, I think, is what I tried to do in the beginning, or tried to suggest at least. Today, I think, yes, probably the image of the beast, Western front line, needed to be in place first, and then the rest can be placed upon that. So I think I agree with that. There was something else you said. Or at least something I wanted to respond on, but I forgot. So that would be my short response, that I think also moved on that understanding. There was something, but it slipped me. Next one, Snyder.
Hello.
Hi.
I had several questions, but some of them have been asked by other speakers, so I won't repeat. But I wanted you to talk about, like, when you speak about the internal and the external, like both of them beginning at 21, who are you speaking about? Like, who are you talking about when you're speaking with this arrow that is moving from 21 to the Sunday law and the one that extends all the way to the universal Sunday law? And who are you talking about? I know it's the king of the north and the king of the south, like the sixth kingdom, seventh kingdom, but can you like clarify the specifics of whose line you're tracing? And then if you can give me insights, this is the second question. If you can share insights on 2021, why do you begin the external in 2021 and how is that different with the internal, especially in 2021? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So there's 4 lines here. The smaller ones, the shorter ones, I refer to the internal, the longer ones as the external. So with internal, let's start with the United States. The internal is from 2021 to the Sunday law, is the story of Elder Terry and the setting up of the image. The setting up of the image of the beast in this history. You can make a story beginning in 2021 with the rise of, you can see Trump, January 6th. You can see the Supreme Court getting in with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. We have the Republicans getting in place to accept Trump, and then finally they crown him as their king. It's this internal America story where they set up the image of the beast that then finally can do also a work externally in this time period. So you see a setting up of the image internally, and then it does its work externally. But the external work, I'm suggesting, doesn't start here. It already started here as well, especially maybe in regard to the King of the South, at least, it starts here in 2021. And I think that is all what Penium teaches and Beneventum. Penium and Beneventum teach us the change of position, because that's what I try to teach here. You can see the rise of Russia here. You can see the loss of credibility of the United States here. And 2021 is this turning point where the USA takes control of the situation. It wins the narrative. Putin loses the narrative, because here it's the story where Putin wins the narrative constantly. European nations are all visiting Moscow, doing business with Russia, think Putin are fine. It's all good. No problems with him, with Russia, and with him. Putin is really dominating the narrative, winning, convincing the rest of the world that they are a credible partner. that is shifting in 2021, where the United States wins the narrative, takes control of the situation, and marks the beginning of the unilateral power that Trump is now misusing extremely at this point. But that rise already started with Biden. Even though Trump was not in office, Biden already took that position, that the throne, gave it to Trump, and Trump is just abusing that even more. But I think this story, the external story starting in 2021, tells you the rise of the King of the North, but it also tells you the fall of the King of the South, starting here. And that's here, this invasion of Ukraine in the end is going to be the death of Russia, prophetically speaking. It's all about spheres of influence, and by invading Ukraine, I don't know how to say that in English, but by invading Ukraine, Putin shot himself in his own foot, if that's a saying. The internal line for the King of the South is, I think, the line that Elder Terry also introduced earlier this year with the story of Navalny. Navalny, that in 2021 returned after being poisoned 3 times, returns in 2021, returns to Russia, is arrested, and is never being released from prison. He is accused, I think, in 2022 for something, 2.5-year sentence, then 19-year sentence in 2023, gets lost at the end of the year, and find him back in Siberia or somewhere at the Arctic region, and dies in February 16 of 2024. That's the internal fall of where you can see Putin loses it, basically. He cannot do anything than just killing his own opponent, and at the same time not bringing down the voice, because Navalny may be dead, but the voice of Navalny still sounds by his friends, especially by his wife. The message that still is still going, and you can see here that Putin is losing that control. Now you can really see that internally Putin can't do anything. This voice of Navalny is still going around. The only thing that he could try to do, and did, was kill Navalny. Marks the end of internal Russia. Russia is now, or the end of Putin internal, the trustworthiness of Putin, if you can say it that way. If there was any credibility for Putin, it was lost here. So that's the internal fall of Putin, the internal rise of the image of the beast, of Trump, and that is going to extend externally there. So these are the 4 lines explained shortly. Hopefully that was clarifying. Next one, Alele.
All right, hope I'm being heard well.
Yes.
Yeah, my question is, from your presentation that you did in Germany, you read an article where that article was suggesting that when Trump comes, he would deal with the Ukraine war on day 1. And what you suggested there was, since Putin started that war, if Trump is to come and deal with his own problem on day 1, it means he has failed. So you marked it as Putin failure, because he would start a war and you would need another person or the King of the North to come and help him deal with the war. Now from there, my understanding is for Trump to be the peace broker, Trump would be the third party. The first party would be the side of Ukraine, and the second would be the side of Russia. But following what happened after your presentation in the Oval Office in the United States of America, where Trump didn't, how do I say, didn't treat Zelensky well, and things went bad. And from there, the European Union took over supporting Zelensky in the war in Ukraine. If Zelensky is to refuse to come into the table with Trump and Putin, it means we are going to be having only two parties. So how will the dynamic be, and what would be its implication on the suggestion that you had made that if Trump helps Putin finish his war, it is his defeat? That's my question.
So how I see the situation now in the world, USA, Russia, Ukraine, we should not forget that this is a war, prophetically speaking, is a war between Russia and the United States, and Ukraine is only a sphere of influence. So this is not about territory in Ukraine and Putin winning territory. So maybe Trump fixes that Putin receives a chunk of territory, and then Putin will shout from the rooftops that he won this battle, that he's a winner, etc. It's not about Ukraine. It's not about territory in Ukraine. It is about this battle between the king of the north and the king of the south. It is about spheres of influence. Yes, I think Putin lost the sphere of influence in Ukraine basically already, even though he may win some territory in the end of the road. But the influence in Ukraine is he lost already. He wanted Ukraine to become a pro-Russian country. Well, I think that's not going to happen anymore after all what has happened after the last 3 years. He wanted to topple the Ukrainian government and install a pro-Russian government. It all didn't happen. He failed in that. The other part is that what we see happening now, what we have seen happening in the last few months, is where Trump seemed to be very pro-Putin and very misbehaving on Zelensky, so to speak, treating Zelensky not very nicely. People have been saying, look how he's giving just everything away to Putin. Putin is the winner at the end of the story. I don't think so. The point is, I think the reason why Trump tried to win Putin, he tried to win Putin away from China, because Putin and Xi, Russia and China, in the last 3 years have become stronger allies. And Russia and America have become enemies, of course, and Russia and China are also not in good foot with each other. So Russia and China have come together and have become closer allies. And Trump sees China as the great enemy. So what he wants to do, he wants to pull Russia away from China and bring Russia in the spheres of influence, if you could say it that way, of the United States. He wants to win Russia away from China. That is what Trump tries to do. And therefore, he's favorable of giving territory or even make it look like Putin wins this war in Ukraine and stuff like that, because he wants to win Russia. But what happens, if that is happening, what happens is that Russia is just one of all the other puppet nations in the world. All the European nations are already in sphere of influence of the United States. And all the other nations in the world are going to follow. Whether it's by tariffs, whether it's by an active war, if it's by threatening, Trump will do anything. And we have seen it in the last 3 months with his tariffs and everything he's been doing externally. He is threatening the rest of the world. If you're not listening to what I want, I'll give you a 50% tariff, or I'm threatening you with whatever. here in the Netherlands, and I think he does it everywhere, he is now saying to companies, the Trump administration tells companies in the rest of the world, if you want to do business with us government, or with us as a nation, with other businesses in our country, if you companies want to do business with America, you should drop your DEI programs. You're not allowed to have your DEI program. So they have to sign a contract. They have to sign forms where they say, we stop the DEI programs in our organization. And only when you have signed such a document, you're allowed to do business with the United States. So you can see that America and the Trump administration is forcing the rest of the world to walk in line, in step with the ideology of the Trump administration. So whether you have a left-wing government, whether you have a right-wing government in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, if you have a dictator, if you have a progressive democracy, it doesn't matter. Trump is going to force your country, doesn't matter where you are, to listen to what they want. And my country, your country, is going to force that ideology upon their nation because they are afraid to have whatever 50% tariffs, 85% tariffs, military intervening, whatever. Trump is going to force the rest of the world to do whatever he wants. And it doesn't really matter. So, and he's doing that with Russia now. Although yesterday he said he's going to step out of this whole thing. So I'm curious how that's going to develop. I don't know. But in the end, Trump is going to force the whole world to follow his ideology and to listen to him. That we, in the end, at the Worldwide Sunday Law, the whole world walks in the footsteps of the USA. That's the kings of the world are bowing down for the image of the beast, and the beast is speaking and is alive and well. And we can see that all happening is going to happen at the Worldwide Sunday Law, including Russia, including China. Not sure if that is an answer to your question, but yeah, that's my response. Boaz. Welcome.
Thank you. This is Grace speaking through what is Grace. So I have like 5 questions, but I may not ask all of them.
Okay.
Let me see what to begin with. But maybe to start, when you started your presentation, you labored or you said that part of the work that you are doing is to try and understand events prior to Panium, which is okay. Understand Boston, Concord, and Exeter. At the beginning of that line, I don't have a problem with it. I have a problem from Panium to that last line, Panium to Sunday Law. And why do you think it becomes or why do you treat the National Sunday Law like a waymark that is not significant? Because when you amalgamate those waymarks and put them between 2021 and Sunday Law, and there you have showed us that we have increase of knowledge and formalization, which is July 2024, and you said that you agree with Terry's studies. So why do you think it is important to assume that National Sunday Law is not a major or a significant waymark? That is question 1. Maybe I'll
let me respond to your question, because otherwise I will forget all your the first
Okay.
question when you have asked the fifth. So I don't want to make it an insignificant waymark. It's not. It's the image. It's the rising of the image of the beast. It's the setting up of the image of the beast. It's a major waymark. It's national Sunday law. It is the rise, the merging of the MAGA movement, Trumpism, Republican Party. It is full force. It is crowned. It is visible. You can see it, and it starts to work. So it is a major waymark. But that is all an internal story, and therefore it is. I've never used the word insignificant, I think, but it is part of a different story. So if you talk about the external story, the fall of the King of the South, of course the King of the North is involved. But that whole setting up of the image internally is a different story, is a different event connected. It's an event part of a different story. So if we talk about the fall of the King of the South in this history, then the image of the beast internally in America is, I don't want to say insignificant, but it's not necessarily part of that story, and therefore maybe becomes. It's not even part of the story. It is this July 2024 is not. I'm not saying. Maybe that makes it confusing. When I say July 2024 here, I'm not referring to the RNC, because the RNC is not part of this story. This is external fall of the King of the South. So 2024 here is this one, July to November. And this is where the King of the North, Trump, goes to Putin, calls him, or Viktor Orban goes to Putin, and Trump later calls him and says, like, let's have an agreement, let's talk, and let's fix this. Putin agrees, and they said, okay, let's start this next year. We're going to fix this. That's this waymark. So this is not the RNC. So I'm not making the RNC less important. The RNC is not even part of this story. The RNC is part of an internal story here, this one here, or this one here. That's my response to your question. I don't know if that helps.
Okay, I'm still struggling, but maybe I'll understand as time goes by. Another question, maybe I'll ask it to and leave the rest to ask. So you have identified that February 18th to May 2nd, 2025, you've marked, yes, that one. That is an increase of knowledge based on the events that you have described there. So my question is, usually when we mark an increase of knowledge and formalization, and even Boston, we tie a message and the person having that message. So before I come to the person having that message, you have external increase of knowledge. We should, or the way the lines dictate is that we should have an internal increase of knowledge. So between the 5 presenters dealing with the Sunday law, whom should we associate with the internal increase of knowledge? Because we should have internal and we should have external. I still have that problem, but that is my question. But events, the way you have shown that.
Let me respond to that quickly. Is this okay?
Yes.
So if we have, so let me draw it here. So if we have it in, so let's say this is the internal within the movement increase of knowledge.
Yes.
So I think it was January 22nd, where Elder Parminder invited all the ministries to invite the speakers and start this whole. It was that day where this process was started. So it was in January 2022, 2 days after the inauguration of Trump. And this whole process started off the Sunday Law messengers going to be speaking for all the ministries. So I'm suggesting that is the internal increase of knowledge where January, and I don't know where this ends, not necessarily in May, can be June or July. That doesn't necessarily have to be line up exactly to the day. But I think the process we are in right now is the increase of knowledge. And yes, it is definitely Elder Terry for her story. And so I don't know. I'm still. No, let me say it this way. I think we are in the increase of knowledge that all those different voices that we hear right now, as Elder Perminder even a few weeks ago said, are starting to merge together as one voice. And I think as we move forward, this voice will start merging even closer together and will swell as a loud cry. I think that's where we are in right now. So this process of studying together, this coming together and understanding things better, merging things together, or maybe we say this is all wrong, or what I'm saying is all wrong and this is correct, and we get to a better understanding of the whole thing, it will develop and swell into a loud cry. And I think that's where we are right now in the beginning process, the increase of knowledge of that. Not sure where that ends, but that's how I see this internally.
So, okay, I don't have a problem with where it ends, but don't you see it has a problem because you have come identify the external increase of knowledge, and then you have answered me and said that it is maybe you can mark Elder Terry, and if you go to other different lines, maybe where we mark the increase of knowledge between prior to Sunday Law, that is the National Sunday Law, we mark internally and externally. We are going to mark DOBS and we mark associated with Elder Tess. But why do you think here you are bringing the external and then you are giving us Elder Terry? I'm not having a problem with who should come with the message, but I'm having that problem with how we connect these messages, especially from the lines that you have drawn. Maybe as time goes by, we will understand what really you mean, but I have struggles, actually.
I think we will learn as we go, and we are going to understand these waymarks even better as we move forward. So there's always development on our understanding. But move on. Yes, please. You had a third question?
Okay, some have combined them. Maybe, yeah, I combined them. Let others also ask. Thank you.
Okay. I don't understand that still. Someone says something, the thing that I said?
Maybe I also don't understand it.
What part can you, in a half sentence? So you're
referring to the chat where Dennis has put his understanding of what's going on. I think. Yeah.
I suggest to agree with Elder Terry July, but so the previous one who asked, was it Grace? You you didn't understand why. So I suggested this as a waymark. I suggested this for the internal America, this for the external King of the South, King of the North. And you want to have this one also in place? Was that the problem? But I don't have a date for this, and that's why.
Can I just to clarify that for Grace? I don't know if this is what Grace means, that she's having a struggle of how you are building the line. And I was having that question as well, I think, is that you said originally that we should build it perhaps on Elder Terry's line, or on the Western Front should be the original foundation line, and then we're going to fit these other lines into it. Whereas what you've done there, I think, is put the external line at the top and then say, let's try and work out what the internal one is. I don't know if that's part of the question. And my question connected to that is, how do we then map these lines? Because is it just by month? Because it doesn't seem to be by date. It seems to be July to November. Let's make it July to November for the external as well as the Western as well as the Eastern Front. And on that one, it says February to May, but now you're putting January underneath. And I'm like, so are we doing it by general periods and by months, by dates? How are we doing that mapping? I think that's part of.
Oh, but that has always been, it's never been.
That's set.
It's never been exact. It's usually we've said it's mostly in the same year.
Yes.
But I mean, here we say Penium is February to October, but we have January 6 as an internal thing. That's where you, I think, mark the internal story of the internal America line is January. So it's if you go to 9/11, if you go to 2001, you have September 11, you have November 9 in that story with the attacks, and then the first attack in Afghanistan. That's usually what we mark as the beginning and the end of that waymark. You have 9/11 and 11/9. But 2001 is also, if you take a completely different story, it is the first same-sex marriage in the world. That's in April. You know, it's not necessarily that this same-sex marriage has to take place on 9/11 to make it a prophetic event. It's happening in 2001, which is a significant waymark, and it happened on, I think it was April 1st. So it doesn't necessarily have to be exact on the month or the day, but I think usually we mark the year, and I think depending on the story you tell, you have a certain period for a certain waymark. And if you tell the story of the internal movement, or if you tell the story of the internal America or the King of the North, King of the South, the periods or the waymarks can differ a little bit.
Yeah,
I don't know if that is.
Sorry, I jumped in as well. I think Sandra and Jackie have questions. I'm aware they need some time perhaps to answer.
Sandra? Oh,
yeah.
And by the way, I don't want you to fall over this. This is new. This is my thoughts at the moment. Anyway, but Sandra, sorry.
Okay, thank you so much. And I've been trying to follow your studies. You've been teaching a lot, tracing out about the rise and the fall of the King of the South. So I wanted to ask you in regards of the tariffs you spoke about, like when you see United States trying to impose a lot of tariffs on I think so many countries, and when you look at the foreign policies and look at the Eurasia risk, they've spoken a lot about what can happen in 2024, and mostly as far as the United States being the United States going away from being a world superpower, and we see it's trading on that path already, as we understand the history. And one thing I wanted to ask is, how do you locate these lines? I want you to help me explain, like, are you specifically looking at Panium, or you you're looking at a different dispensation than the events and the things that are happening in it in regard to the Sunday law. Yeah, like I don't have a problem with when you say that when you explained about the King of the South, you can really see a lot that has happened last year, and it depends on where you want to trace out the King of the South. Like last year, you explained a lot about the King of the South, but I want to ask, why are you specifically marking the King of the South from 2021? Why are you not going back to the previous histories and traced out the King of the South? I thought in these presentations you try to go back to that history and make the application with the current history that is happening as far as the fall of Russia. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. I think the previous waymarks before 2021 were nicely put together by Elder Tess. So she has defined Raphia, she has defined Heraclea, she has defined Esculum. She has defined those waymarks quite neatly, and there were always periods. So it was always starting here. That's why I got this idea from the book ending from. She introduced those book ending waymarks where you say it starts at this date, it ends there. This is Esculum, or this is Heraclea. This is so. And in regard to the King of the North and the King of the South, I think Elder Tess has put the foundation of all those waymarks together. Even Penium, she did the greatest part. I only finished it, if you could say it that way, and I'm still perhaps missing parts. But 2021 was for a big part also established by Elder Tess, and the same thing for the waymarks that were there before. So I haven't been focusing on those waymarks so much because they were developed already, and I've been focusing. The reason, or no, it was not the reason. We had an understanding of the previous waymarks, Raphia, etc. Then the invasion happens, and I tried to understand the time we were living in, and we were in this time period. And then suddenly, Elder Tess or Elder Terry came up with her Sunday law message, and I suggested, well, shouldn't we understand this dispensation first in detail better to be able to understand the Sunday law better? That was my premise originally. And I think the previous waymarks are in place, still in place. But what we didn't understand so much is these waymarks, and that's why I've been focusing on them so much.
Thank you. That does mean you're using the repeating pattern, Boston, Concord, Exeter, and then a particular group of people are tested when you speak about the national Sunday law and the worldwide Sunday law. And I wanted to ask, as far as the Sunday law is concerned, like when you traced out the waymark of 2021, when you see it's, of course, automatically when using that repeat pattern that is already Boston, then you're going to your place your increase of knowledge to be probably thinking it's maybe June 2022, whereby you have DOP versus Women Health Organization, like abortion rights being overturned in the United States, and then you come to I think that's May 30th. Can I ask a question? Like, when you come to this line, are you tracing mostly on is it connected with the King of the North? Like when you're tracing out the King of the South, are you making the connection with also the King of the North coming into his existence, or this is just a different story you're trying to tackle from a different perspective?
Yes, I try to understand it from a different perspective. The Eastern Front, Western Front are different battles, different wars, but at the same time, I think those lines or those events need to be in place or in sync with each other somewhat. Just what I just talked about before when Emma commented shortly, that those waymarks of those different stories need to be in sync with each other, not exactly on the date, but it's in the same time period. And I guess that is vague. I think we have established years within the same year. So if for example, here, if we take this waymark, we say, I say that's February to September for the Eastern Front. On the Western Front, we have been saying that is Dobbs, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and that was June 24th, 2022. So that is the 24th of June. This first waymark is also a waymark of how do you say that? Death decree. So to 1 second. In August 19th of August, it's possibly the first woman in America that died because of the Dobbs, the overturning of Roe v. Wade. It is a woman, her name is Amber Thurman. Her name should be heard. Amber Thurman, a woman that went to the hospital because of complications with her pregnancy. And well, long story, but she's possibly the first one that wasn't helped in the hospital and died because of that. She's Amber Thurman, dying August 19, is the first one dying because of the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So I'm marking June 24 to August 19 as the increase of knowledge, as the death decree, as etc. So I forgot your question. So yes, I think for all those stories, we need to have a waymark. We need to have an event that happens somewhere at the same time period. And you can see February to September is not June to August. It's completely different. We have in the same story, we have also the court case of Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. It was April to June, I think, which became also a worldwide event regarding the same problem. I'm not marking it here. I think the Dobbs one is more matching, but
okay, thank you. The last one is just like maybe a compliment. I think maybe the problem is too many of us are struggling to see like a symbol can be used to represent many things, and I think maybe that's where I'm seeing where there's a lot of challenge. Like it depends on how you want to use a symbol to explain very many things. The concept of juggling two things at the same time, I think that is something that is becoming much more problematic for many of us. But I thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I see. Yeah, we're the two concepts mixing together is, I understand that to be difficult, and yeah, we'll see how it develops. Shadrach.
Okay, my question is regarding the dispensation you have there on the top right, written in red, January to April 28. Yes, that one. Would you clarify what you are trying to pass across regarding that dispensation? Thank you.
Yes, so I think in those 100 days, so I think it was April 30, which will mark the 100th day of Donald Trump. We've seen everything that Donald Trump can do. I think we've seen the increase of knowledge. We've received the increase of knowledge of Donald Trump's work that he's going to continue, of course, and it even becomes worse as we move on. So January 20th was the inauguration of Donald Trump. So he started to, I think in this time period, there were 140 executive orders. So January 20 marks the beginning of that process, of his work. And April 20 marks the publishing of this article. So it could be, we can also mark April 30 or maybe April 24 when the interview was given. But April 28 was the article was published of The Atlantic. The Atlantic had an interview with Donald Trump about his first 100 days. And he said several things, but one of the things he said there very clearly is there was, he compared his first term with his second term. So he said, in an interview with The Atlantic published on April 28th, Donald Trump declared, "I run the country and the world." He contrasted his second term with his first, saying that initially he had to run the country and survive. So he said, at his first term, I needed to run the country and at the same time try to survive because there was a lot of opposition within the Republican Party, within his own cabinet, etc. So there was a lot of problems he had to deal with. So in his first term, he ran the country and also needed to survive. But now he believes he is leading both the USA and the world together. And in this interview, he reflected on his aggressive use of executive orders, his strained relationships with global allies, and his economic policies, including high tariffs. This Atlantic interview took place on April 24th. It was conducted by Ashley Parker and Michael Scherer. So it was an interview done because of the first 100 days of his presidency. That is in America an important time where you usually do the things that you want to do. We have seen Donald Trump in his first 100 days, and he summarizes that as, in the first term, in my first 4 years, I struggled. I run the country, but I struggled, basically. The second time, now, his first 100 days, he says, I'm running the country and I run the world. And I think this running the world element is something that we should expect to see in this, as Elder Terry described it here. This is the external, here is the external rise of the seventh kingdom, where we can see it. We can now really see the rise of the seventh kingdom in the world. He is now ruling the world, and he is forcing the rest of the world to follow in his footsteps. And I think we have seen the increase of knowledge in his first 100 days. That is my suggestion. Next one.
Hello, hello. Hello,
Hi.
Arjan.
Hi.
Jerome here. Yeah, I see a lot of harmony and the way the truth has been developing. And I see a lot of things you're saying are connecting in pieces. The dots are there connecting. So the complications that we have is that we're navigating the complex, and at times it's not easy. It's not easy to see. And as Elder Pamenda has also discussed, that the truth that we're going to reach to is going to be a near approximation of truth, because we don't have all the information, because others have been damaged and the rest. So I see with the class of today, I see a lot of pairing that's working between the Western Front and the Eastern Front. So I was having issues with the idea of a readjustment in our understanding of what the Battle of Argos looks like, understanding how it ends. So you did not speak much about that. So I saw it and I feel like there's a lot to learn again. And there's still a lot to unlearn, because we have really focused so much of the years during the period of the midnight prayer. We are trying to understand the King of the South, but there has been a recent resurgence to understand the King of the North, and the King of the South has been doing a lot of things that has been going unnoticed. And today I've seen a line that has been pulled out, and a lot of information about the King of the South I've seen today. And I'm really mesmerized by that. But I see the consistency and I see how the line is progressing. So with threading the needles, even if you go to other tests presentations at time, you see waymarks that do not exist, but you see a story that has been woven through it. And I get to realize that the line that we're seeing today ain't about the Western Front, it's about the Eastern Front, and the connections and the dots are connecting to a particular things that relate to the fall of the King of the South. And then with what's on the board and the construction of what Elder Terry did with the National Sunday Law and the Worldwide Sunday Law, I don't know if I saw it wrongly, but when Elder Terry was projecting from the National Sunday Law to the Worldwide Sunday Law, her marker was on top of National Sunday Law moving forward on top of it, marking that what happens at the National Sunday Law, yes, that. So it wasn't down there, it was up at the National Sunday Law and moving upwards toward the Worldwide Sunday Law. So she wasn't putting years from there.
Yeah, like that. Okay, yeah.
That's how I saw it. That's how I saw it. So I don't see a very big difference with what you put down here, because everything that is happening there needed to have a starting point. What we see Trump doing is just emboldening in what he's going to do, but it started a long way before that, and we can trace it from where it started. So I don't see as maybe, I don't know, maybe I saw it differently to how you saw it, but I saw Elder Terry projecting it from the National Sunday Law. What Trump has gained, now he's going to add on top of that to gain other things. It's just going to be an addition. He's not going to start it afresh because the battle has been going forward. So that's how I see. So I don't know, but that's just a compliment. It's not a question. I get the points how they align. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment. Philip.
Okay, thank you so much for the presentation. I've not originally planned to ask questions because I had planned to benefit a lot from other people's questions. The presentation itself actually is very nice because it's actually it presents how the King of the North and the King of the South and how they are on the trail together working and making proper things happen.
Is there something you can do? Is there something you can do to improve your audio, because it's difficult to follow?
Okay. Let me try. Is it now okay?
Oh, better. Yes, much better.
Okay, I had the
Thank you.
AirPods. So I'm saying your presentation is quite okay, except for the part that was actually talking about the Sunday law, because when I see the King of the North and King of the South, Eastern and Western Front together, I did not originally think about the Sunday law stuff, because when you go back to the study that held that Elder Test did a Midnight Cry message, we see the rise of dictatorship. Trace back to French Revolution, to German revolutions, Russian revolutions. We see how the dictator rised. It always the work that is done within, and we know that there are two things that go right now that are actually running contemporary. There is the glorious land that need to be taken over in order for the dictator to rise, and in order for the dictator to reach the world, the whole world need to be captured. All these things are happening at the same time, and we know the King of the North has already been dealt with, but the King of the North, portion of the King of the North that is left to be dealt with, is going to be dealt with the whole world, which is now the Russia that we are seeing. So it's going to be dealt with the whole world. So when I see originally how you were doing it, the King of the North rise and the relationship with the King of the North and King of the South, I could not possibly actually agree on the aspect of the Sunday law, because that is not where it comes from, based on how I see it. But I was very happy when you said you are actually agreeing with Elder Terry Because the reason why I personally agree with Elder Terry is because she's actually dwelling within the Western Front, within the United States of America, and how the USA is conquering itself, okay, and how it is actually going out to conquer the world. So that is pretty important, and that one actually finally made me happy when I hear that from you. It's actually makes it me not to have question anymore. While I also at the same time actually got benefited from this complicated stuff that you put together. It's actually make things even more simpler. Thank you.
Thank you.
Arjan, we should be winding up because of time.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's no, I was thinking about that as well. I don't see. Oh, there's one hand. Am I allowed to take that one, or shall we leave it here for now? Oh, hand has been removed. Okay, no, let's because of time, let's leave it here. It was a blessed time together for me as well. It was good to have all those questions, also to develop my understanding. But I hope you've been blessed as well. Let's close with prayer. Dear Lord, I want to thank you, Lord, for this opportunity of studying together. We've all been blessed with your presence, with the truth, with studying together. Lord, we had a big group today. It was a blessing to have fruitful conversations, fruitful thoughts were brought in, good questions were asked. Lord, I recognize that people struggle with the concept that I've proposed. I understand that they are different. Lord, if I've been teaching things that are wrong, I hope that we all may be able to recognize it soon. But Lord, I hope we also are able to join together, unite together, and grow together, and that those messages will come together closely as we go forward, and that we all as a movement will be able to speak as one voice, and that it will swell into a loud cry. I pray for your understanding, for your patience with us. I also pray for more light and understanding. Pray for a pouring out of your rain upon us, and that we will be blessed by light, understanding, and in the end, Lord, that it all will be there to understand you and your kingdom better. We want to be part of that kingdom. We want to live in that kingdom today. But at the same time, we need to develop our understanding of it as well. And I pray that we will, and this group as well, will be able to do that as we continue to study. Thank you, Lord. I pray for a continued blessing upon this Sabbath. And if Lord willing, bring us back together at some point. In Jesus' name I thank you. Amen.